Sean Johnson of the Chicago Fire Major League Soccer team. If you could use one word to describe this dinner, what would it be?
Corkscrew.
All right.
Yeah, that's good. I like
And he named it right.
what did you call it the first time?
The blind turn.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
And welcome to Dinner with Racers. My name is Ryan Eversley, and I'm sitting alongside my co-host, Sean Heckman.
Hello.
Sean, where are we right now?
We made it to Georgia.
Finally.
So if we want, we can find some fireworks. I don't think I can bring
Or-
them back to Los Angeles with me.
We
but
can maybe get you a shotgun.
Yes, and I could blow my head off.
It's been a fun trip.
Yeah. But in any case, we are wrapping up our trip, actually. We have been driving. We are now in the final state of a 20-state journey.
That's right.
We've been driving for the last 30 days, meeting up with racers around the country to discuss a number of topics, learn about where they've come from, you name it, all so that we can deliver you, the audience, 27 free conversations, which you can turn around and then tell us that we're idiots. So thanks. So next up, we literally went from Jill Campbell in Monterey, California, to Chicago. And how many stops did we make, Ryan?
I think we made like 5 stops total, but we did it in 34 hours.
Yeah, 5 stops for gas.
Right.
How many hotel stops?
0.
Yep.
But we did learn about Rhino Rush, which is a ephedra-powered energy drink, and learned that I can sing any song you put in front of me as long as I'm drinking ephedra and driving through the night.
I learned that I have a probably unhealthy amount of trust in you as a driver.
That's correct.
In the middle of the night because I just slept.
You were fine with it.
And I was fine.
Yeah.
And that was that. But anyway, so we get to Chicago.
We made it. You're listening to this.
We head out to the south side and of downtown and met up with Sean Johnson, who is not a name you may necessarily know in the world of racing, but you would know him in the world of Major League Soccer.
Yeah, Sean's a goalie for the Chicago Fire and winner of the What You Got video series, sponsored by Continental Tire, with the use of a Lamborghini, which he talks about. And
this is basically a very different conversation from other ones you're going to hear because whereas everybody else we've met are experienced veterans of the sport in different capacities, Sean is the absolute opposite. He's a guy who really wants to get into racing and learn about it, and we thought that would be kind of a cool perspective to take over lunch. So we answer a lot of questions for Sean. Really, Ryan and Sean kind of have a little love fest on what the next steps are. For
I
his
really
career.
like the guy.
He's awesome. And we talk about everything from, what the next steps of his driving career would be, overcoming a few of the stereotypes that sometimes new drivers can kind of find themselves into. We kind of trade war stories on how race car drivers hit on girls versus soccer players.
That's right.
All of this occurring at Hub 51 in downtown.
Yeah, I had the skinny burger, which is called that because it's an old-style, old-fashioned burger where it's all flat and skinny, but it was really fattening and delicious.
And I had a chicken sandwich.
Of course you did.
So let's hear from Sean.
And once again, thank you to Continental Tire.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
One thing to warn you about is we don't really cue it. We just go.
Yeah, you're good.
So,
You're good.
So Hub 51.
Okay.
Uh,
This place is cool. Did you look at the menu yet?
no, I haven't looked at the menu yet.
I didn't. So Sean doesn't eat really anything but chicken sandwiches.
It is actually true.
And I didn't see a chicken sandwich.
No.
They have chicken stuff.
I'm going to lose my
Oh, wait. No, there's there's a roasted chicken French dip. So I guess you could do that.
There's something called the skinny, so that's off.
That actually looks really good, though. It's like a thin patty burger,
All right.
which is more my style, like the old
Very good.
fashions.
They got some good stuff.
Got some soft
And then they
tacos.
have sushi, which is funny to me.
Bounce all, yeah, literally a variety of things from sushi to tacos to salads and chicken sandwiches. It's crazy. It's really good though. Atmosphere is cool.
Yeah. Is you come here to look at girls? Because I've seen a couple. Like there's a table of two there. There's two there.
There are quite a bit of good-looking girls here.
Yeah.
Especially this side. This side's the happy hour side.
Nice.
The other side's more the dinner side. So people come
Right.
after work, hang out on the side. It's
Right.
packed. First
Right.
come, first
Right.
serve. Better crowd on this side than that side.
Sure.
For sure. But yeah, they have a good brunch too. At least we just missed the brunch cutoff, but the brunch is actually excellent too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's the girls.
Yeah,
You
so
can tell
he's
by
like,
his face.
It's like, yeah, no, it's like, I wanted you can't really pull the soccer card, but I figured if I had a headset and a podcast, maybe they'd look.
they definitely eye candy, but no, it's funny when you said that. My girlfriend's friend actually works here.
Oh, nice.
So yeah,
Nice.
she's got eyes on me all the time.
I was
so
just
she's,
about to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I can look, but I can't
Anybody-
look too long.
Where's she from?
Yeah, she's from DC.
So she can scrap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. She's
there's,
not afraid
there's-
to-
yeah, you don't want to make her upset or
Yeah,
else.
yeah. With the girls, does the soccer thing? We were just talking about this with race car drivers. Like
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, I'm not a racing driver anymore, but a guy like Ryan, you can't just throw that out as like the first line, because if you're doing that, you're inherently a douche.
Right.
Right.
This comes up because I dated a girl in Chicago years ago, and we were talking about it this morning. And I said, I didn't tell you what I did there. And basically, I was very inebriated.
Yeah.
And it was post-race at Road America.
Okay.
So she was in Milwaukee at the time.
Yeah, I was there.
And this is like 5 years
just
ago or
kidding.
whatever. But basically, I drunkenly went over and said to her, "Did they tell you I'm a race car driver?" And she was like, "No." And didn't talk to me for a year. And then we started dating. Like, I had a year to work back up to it. So
Yeah.
what happens when you tell a girl you're a soccer player?
Yeah, it's one or two things. Either she falls head over heels instantly, or she
Is that
has,
real? Are you telling the truth?
100%.
No way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Interesting.
Like, well, they hear professional athlete and
Sure.
they're all for it. Or it's they have no clue who the fire is. You're like an idiot, and now you
Yeah.
have to backtrack and then
Right.
try
So-
to explain.
When you say I work
Not
for
that
Chicago,
I've done this before, but
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because how long have you been with your girl?
a year now, a
Okay.
little over a
Okay.
year.
So
yeah.
back in the old days.
Yeah. So yeah,
when you said I work for Chicago Fire, they say like thank you for your service, and then
well, I get firefighter. I get the TV show now. There's a TV
Right.
show.
There's a show called
That's
Chicago.
right.
So
Yeah. and they
everything
film it
but
have you seen
soccer.
that show, by the way?
No, I haven't.
it is amazing.
They film
Yeah.
actually by where I
Yeah.
live.
Oh, do they
all the
really?
time,
Okay, because
yeah.
a lot of times they'll just shoot exteriors and then
Yeah.
shoot it all in LA. But the show is, if you haven't seen Chicago Fire, it is well worth it, because I am pretty sure when the writers are sitting there in the room kind of figuring out the stories, they all know the deal.
Yeah.
Like they all know, like guys, what? Like I'm sure somebody pitches a story and like, wait a minute, that's a real story. What are you doing? Because it's literally just.
What are you,
excuses.
talented? Get outta here.
Get out
Yeah.
of here. We can't have you, because it is just incredibly good-looking
I gotta
people
check it out.
with no shirts on. It's amazing.
Oh, so it's Baywatch with fire.
Yeah,
fire
it's, and,
department.
they're, and
Okay.
it's, but where it's good is it's completely unapologetic.
They're
they're
just
not-
like, it's out
yeah,
there.
They're
Yeah.
not trying to make a good show. They're just like, screw it, it's Chicago Fire. What do you want?
Yeah,
So,
that's soccer is probably the last option that people choose when you say the fire. So
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I would think with the ladies that the soccer thing, like it's obscure enough that it's kind of hip. At least in the U.S., maybe not, but like it's I'm saying, like you date an NBA player, an NFL player, something like that. Like, not anybody can do that, but it sounds a little too made up. Like you're
Yeah.
walking around telling your girlfriends, but like, oh, he's a professional soccer player. You sound like a man of the world.
Well, it's not the worst thing. So I feel like
Yeah.
NBA, NFL, NHL, like all have this whole, I guess,
Like a stigma.
yeah,
or-
stigma behind them, like professional athletes in those sports, either football, like out all the time, or whatever. Baseball,
every
same
city.
thing.
Yeah.
Basketball is a little bit more like you have your superstars. I'd never see Derrick Rose ever in the city. I've not seen him once
Right.
since I moved here. But those sports have a little bit more of a bad rep than soccer.
Sure.
And soccer's just like a whole mystery thing. So it's like it's actually kind of cool. Like it plays to your advantage if they want to know more about soccer. But if they shit about soccer, then
Right.
So do you throw it out first line, or do you hope that they discover it, like by Google searching you or whatever?
I never throw it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's the way to do it.
And
Yeah.
it's sometimes we'll like play well, we used to play a joke. Like I'd go out with my teammates and would say, all right, so what's the answer going to be if they ask you where you work? And make up something completely random out there. You could say the fire, but then you couldn't say you're a player. It had to be like ticket sales. Or
Right,
you were
right.
in
Marketing.
like management
Yeah.
and like
Right.
explain like what you
Product
did.
development.
Yeah.
I sell
Yeah.
Acuras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sell Acuras. And now I have a podcast.
Well, that's worse than being a race car driver.
Right. I'm going for the sympathy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do all types of stuff.
You hurt your shoulder, right?
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that in a
yeah,
game or
my
in
labor.
practice?
Like, kind of like an ongoing thing.
Oh, okay,
So
right.
yeah, so just wear and tear over the years.
Yeah.
You feel like I felt it to start the season. Like it was painful, but I could push through it, and then it became unbearable. So
What's the most
gotta
normal?
check
Is
that.
that a normal injury for soccer players or for
Overhead
goalies?
athletes, like
Yeah.
pitchers, some football players, any like swimmers,
Yeah.
anything with a lot of rotation in that joint, either rotator cuffs, labrum. So,
Right.
and
Do
then-
goalies get more injured than?
No,
Okay.
actually, usually this is my first injury that's
Really?
carried me out. Yeah, since
Okay.
since I started. So, 2010. Yeah, I had a torn quad for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. But
Yeah.
came back from that pretty quickly, and this
Yeah.
is 6 weeks.
Do you call
so.
it football with your friends?
I call it soccer.
You do call it
I
soccer.
do.
All
I
right,
do.
good. Like
I'm
a
not.
goddamn
I'm not.
American.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. No, because no. This is an ongoing theme, but I have this pet peeve with Americans trying to sound fancy and European
Yeah,
when
we've
they're full
talked
of
about it on every podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I have this pet peeve. Like I'm like anybody. I watch the World Cup when it comes around. But what I can't stand is the people who all of a sudden will get on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and all of a sudden, pontificate on all these expert opinions they have about how USA is going to do against Germany or whatever, and you look at a year like 2015, which is, we're a couple years out
Yep.
from the next one, and where are they now? They're not commenting on soccer, and you must deal with a lot of these faux experts that show up once every 4 years. Or
I
so.
mean, yeah, it's common in the sports world. I mean, I won't say too much because I'll get
Yes, you can.
hammered
Yeah.
by Chicago fans.
No,
but I'm
no,
not
we're
from
going to
here,
get into
so
that.
it doesn't
Screw
matter.
'em. Yeah.
So Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, the lovable losers.
Like, yeah.
That's what they call them.
Yeah, so I went to Wrigley to check out their first playoff game in the NLCS.
Oh, that had to have been crazy.
And it was nuts.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what percentage of people in here actually
Right.
give a shit about baseball
Yeah.
besides
Yeah.
the fact that you're watching the Cubs?
Right.
You know, and it's crazy. Like, I feel like that's how sports are. Like,
Yeah.
that's how it is with
Yeah.
soccer, how it is with when
Right.
the World Cup comes around, you'll see like so many more fans pop up than you've heard.
Right.
It's been dead for
But
so
do
long.
they then have the gall to throw their faux expertise at you about, what the Fire really need?
Oh
is-
yeah, I mean
yeah.
you get that all the time from fans. Like, you have a tons of coaches out there, but you just gotta get past it. I
You just
mean,
gotta deal with
people
it.
have their opinions, So yeah.
Do you guys get recognized on the streets?
More so probably in the past couple years than my first few years.
Oh, really? Why's that?
Maybe because the sport's grown. Maybe just from living
Your-
here
and then your
playing.
notoriety
yeah,
as a
exactly.
player, yeah.
So like this area, River North.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite areas, like restaurants, places to hang out, chill, whatever. So this is probably like the area I come to most. So
Right.
if I'm walking around, this is probably the most expected that I'll find somebody that recognizes me. But the South Loop where I live, I'll go to the grocery store, and once every 12 trips, I'll find like a kid or
Yeah.
a
Oh, really?
fan. It's
Okay.
cool. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do Chicago athletes all hang out together?
Not really, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't really seen many athletes out. I've seen a football player here and there.
So there's not like some city function you
I've
have to
never
go
hung
to?
out with Patrick Kane, if that's what you're asking.
If I
Yeah.
knew who that was, I'd say yeah.
Maybe.
Hockey player.
Yeah.
Has he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My Blackhawks history goes
Yeah.
to like Jeremy Roenick, and that's about it. I don't really know much. So
Maybe too soon with all he was involved in, but
You're giving us too much credit.
what's that?
You're giving us too much
Yeah,
credit. Like
yeah.
I mean, I've been trapped in a car with this guy for like.
for
Well,
months.
that's all the city talks about is hockey and
Right.
So.
Yeah. Now, in the racing world, with the exception of a few NASCAR guys, for the most part, racing drivers, professional racing drivers, are not exactly getting rich off of what they're doing. There's a perception in the outside world that they are. And I have to assume you guys are in a very similar boat, that you're
Yeah.
probably making okay money, but
Yeah.
not exactly NFL.
Right.
So,
Some players are, some players aren't. I think the minimum wage in our league is like $60,000
Right.
a year. So it used to be my first year was like $18,500.
Right.
So you made more.
Baller.
Yeah, you made
Yeah.
more. You made more working minimum wage.
Yeah, you might as
Yeah.
well just get a real job.
Yeah. Like it's
and setting
incredible.
up for a life after soccer. I mean, that's not an income that you can.
Yeah. But the crazy thing is, like, I feel like no one really has an idea of that. Like I talked about earlier, like when you say professional athlete, they go, he's rich.
Yeah.
This
Got a
this
plane.
This is great.
Right.
Yeah. But the reality is, like, in our sport, there's I'd probably say about half of the team that makes probably somewhere around that minimum wage mark.
Right.
And then you have,
A few superstar guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you went to Road America, what was I mean, obviously, as like Continental wanted you guys to come up. It's
Yeah.
co-branding with the sponsorship of the series and the sponsorship of your league. What were you expecting when you got there? Because you've always had an interest in cars, it seems like, but that's your first, like, wow, like here it is up front and personal, and you got to hang out with Jordan and Ricky Taylor. You guys did a road trip back, right?
They're nuts. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
they
cool.
are absolutely nuts. That's
Yeah.
to us, they're nuts too. You know what I mean? It's not like we're like, no, that's normal.
Yeah, if they're weird in the race world, I have to feel like they're.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right.
But
So
no,
going
it's
into-
cool. So that was my first actual race experience besides the Indy 500,
Right.
and that was cool. But it wasn't a circuit, so I figured my first time I got my teammate Lavelle to go to Road America, which was an unbelievable experience. And
Yeah.
I just think I was waving the flag and just like seeing the cars just whiz by, like don't even know how fast they were going.
Right.
It was
Right.
incredible. I mean, I would love to. I think I got in a fight with Sherry before Road America because I wanted to ride in the GT3
Yeah.
instead of the Audi like beforehand.
Like the
and
street
do
car or whatever.
The hot lap or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. So we butt heads for like a solid like 30 minutes, and then I was okay with it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wonder why she didn't let you in.
What's that?
I don't know, maybe did you start fitting in that car?
I think she already like signed us up because like we had to go with Lavelle, and so it was me, Lavelle, and one of the other guys. So we
kind of all went together.
Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely want to get involved. I mean, I've driven Road Atlanta. Obviously not anything crazy in like a
BMX5.
BMW.
Oh, okay.
Like
Oh, you did the high performance like driving experience or whatever.
which all right. For me, this is where I get like frustrated. So I drive a 370Z,
Okay.
and the car's been supercharged for a little bit, and I've gotten used to driving a faster vehicle. So then when I go drive,
You get into like a Z3 or
right,
something.
and then so I'm driving that around the track, or I go to the Autobahn, and it's kind of the same thing.
Right.
And then I can't remember what car it was at Road Atlanta, but I'm pretty sure it was a Z3 Roadster at Autobahn, and I'm like chugging along, and I'm like, okay. And I guess learning how to handle a car at lower speeds. But I think if they gave me a car that was fast as shit and set me on the track and was like, be like cautious at first and build your way into it, I think I would have like, well, I'm not the like average person just starting out. Like I feel like I have a little bit more experience than driving a car like that around a track.
You're describing the perfect, typical Skip Barber student.
Yep.
This is
So-
so
They set. All right, so yeah, in Atlanta, they put me in like the Mazda.
MX5 or something.
Yeah. Like, something. I don't know. Yeah, that's what it was. Like to do the autocross. And I was like, that's cool, but I don't want to do this. So I got my
Yep.
car on the autocross.
Okay.
He's like, cool.
So I'm gonna do this back to you now.
Okay.
All right. So as a pro race car driver, and I worked at Skip Barber
Okay.
and Road Atlanta when it was Pano's racing school.
Okay.
My rebuttal to that would be me going to the stadium tomorrow and being like, hey, I feel like I can probably block a soccer ball. Can I go ahead and get in there?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
But the
like, yeah,
difference
like sending
is
me like
like
a prototype.
if
Like, yeah, go ahead.
if I screw it up, I'm probably not gonna hurt myself. Well, I'd probably hurt myself. I'll definitely find a way to do that.
But you're not putting
it's
people
not
at
going to
risk.
cause. Well,
Yeah.
it's not going to be a $70,000
Yes, mistake.
mistake. You know.
That's fair. That's fair.
So but I get it because the way I like to do things is like I'm very rarely the guy that wants to like. Maybe we should do a dry run here and work our way up to it. It's like, let's do this,
Right,
which is
yeah,
kind of
hop
how
straight
this
into it.
came together.
Yeah.
It was like,
There's a
okay,
whole
let's
podcast,
just
yeah.
go to Texas.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So I hear you, but on this, and I'm defending Skip Barber. Ugh.
No, but
You're thinking
I'm
of like
with you.
a collection
So-
of people. Like all of America has Skip Barber as an option.
Yeah. Right.
So they have to be, I guess, cognizant of that and be like,
Exactly, and there have been times in my instructing career where I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty switched on. I think we could step him up, and then you move him to the next level, and it's
Right.
the biggest crash ever, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I just told that guy he was ready to go.
Right.
So there's a big like personal concern, and then when you know the person, and especially if it was somebody with celebrity status
Right.
as yourself shows up,
Yeah.
you're like, I can't be the guy that lets this guy go get hurt.
Right.
You know, I won't be allowed to.
Well,
work anymore.
and here would be the other thing as far as racecraft. A lower horsepower, sort of less exciting car, an MX-5 or something like that. This is going to sound weird, but there's truth in this, and feel free to disagree, Ryan. But a lower horsepower car is going to exaggerate your mistakes
yes.
in the sense of correcting
want-
them.
well,
And it's good to cure that now while you're still sort of developing.
I would agree with that. I mean, I would think, especially like I went out there to Road Atlanta and it was pissing down rain. So that was my first.
That's
my
trial by
first
fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was on the skip pad to start, and so like then the rain started slow down, started to slow down, and then it became like a little drizzle, and then it was just a damp surface. And I was like, well, this is awesome to learn. I'm thinking the instructor's like, holy shit, like, this is the worst. But he's like, yo, this is the best time to learn.
Yeah, and that was a good. Yeah, especially on that skid pad, there's nothing to hit.
Yeah. So I was in their car to start, and I was like, all right. So we're going around this, skid pad, and we're doing the. I guess it was wet. They even wetted even more, and we're going around in circles.
It's a
like
sealed.
learning how
It's
to
a sealed asphalt too,
Yeah.
so the water doesn't run away.
right. So
yeah.
learning how to deal with oversteer, and I was like, and understeer. I was like, perfect. So we're in this car, and I find like it takes me a little bit to get the hang of it. I'm getting the hang of it, whatever. As soon as I get in my car, maybe it's because I've driven it a long
So,
time.
and this is your street car, your
Yeah.
personal car. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it 370?
370s.
Yeah.
I literally was just going around and around and around and around. He's like, yeah, well, you have more power to deal with. You have more, and like you said, exaggerating your mistakes. You don't have as much power. So if you make a slight mistake, it's way
gonna
harder to
grip up,
recover
right.
than
Right.
I could just completely just power through and then, So, but it's cool. Then I ended up, I was like a kid in a candy store. So this guy, I guess he got comfortable, and he's like, you know what, cool. So I took my car, was doing the autocross, took my car. I didn't take my car on the track.
Smart.
Yeah, especially with the wet surface.
Nothing
but
worse than having to go home on the wrecker
Yeah.
with your own car.
Yeah.
Daily, yeah.
How many times did that happen?
Oh man, we used to do this thing called track days, which I think they might
Yeah.
still do up there.
Yeah.
We used to do it like twice a month, and it was a big hit. Lots
Yeah.
of people showed up, and this guy came once in a green Mustang GT Cobra, like this is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And him and his kid, and he's out there beating the piss out of this thing. I mean, like giving it one like it's his last day on Earth. And you're just like, man, this guy is like on the brink, and we can't tell him to stop.
Right.
We can tell, and we are telling these guys, like, hey, you're making mistakes. Like, don't get carried away, don't get hurt.
Right.
And this guy comes into turn 12, which is the big downhill right-hander on the front straightaway, and just destroys the thing. Like hooks the wheels back in and just massive, like, and your nose tail, spinning all the way down the front straightaway. And his kid's with him, and his kid comes back to bring the helmet that they had rented, and he's limping. And I'm
God.
like, it's like 15-year-old kid. I'm like, are you all right? He's like, yeah, my ankle. We're going to go to the doctor. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, is your dad okay? And he's like, he's really pissed. He sold that car yesterday on eBay.
Oof.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just like that?
He's like, the car was sold, and so what he was doing was he's like, okay, I'm going to go one last hurrah.
Right.
It was a little bit like, okay, well.
That sucks.
Yeah. But he'd already sold the car, and it gets destroyed.
Well, and so to put that sort of in soccer terms, like Ryan was saying, as far as just jumping in all of a sudden thinking he's ready to be a goalie,
Which I am.
There's
He may be.
there's something to be said if you can't make the improvements that you need to make at sort of the Skip Barber levels or the track day levels, then you're simply not ready just because you can have the nicer car or the faster car.
Right,
It doesn't
for sure.
necessarily make you qualify.
For sure.
And we see that even at the pro levels where there's guys in there
All
who
the
maybe
time.
shouldn't be,
You get-
but they want to be in the big show.
Exactly. You get a guy or a
I
kid.
saw a guy at Road America that was in an R8. I'm not sure who it was, but I think Sherry's explaining to me that he wasn't quite to the level of the other drivers, or he was just starting
In an
out.
R8?
And he was just doing it
In
for
Road
fun.
America? At Road
Yeah.
America? Okay.
We probably know who it is.
We probably know who it is.
So yeah, I'm like, Sherry, why is he considerably slower than every other? Is something wrong with that car? And she's
Yeah.
like, no, nothing's wrong with that car. And I'm like, well, it looks like it's a sweet ride. Like I mean, someone should be like driving it properly. You
Right.
know, she's like, yeah, well, he's just, he's newer to the sport, getting used
Right.
to it. So, but I feel like Road America's not the time to really like.
Yeah, it's
lot
not a
of-
track to sort of
Yeah.
learn.
Here's
exactly.
where the difference between racing as a sport and racing as a business comes in.
Okay.
Because the reality is that almost 50% of the cars you saw at that race were being paid for by the guy driving it, and then the other 50% were either manufacturer assisted,
Right.
and then or maybe let's say 49% were manufacturer assisted, like
Yeah.
factory BMW team, factory
Yep.
Corvette team, etc. And then like 1% of them has an actual sponsor that's paying
Yeah.
for the whole thing.
Gotcha.
It's very much privately funded by what
By
we call
somebody.
gentlemen drivers, which
Yep.
are hobbyists or people that are aspiring to one day be a pro or a paid
Exactly.
driver. So it's almost as if I could plunk down a check right now for 75 grand and I
Right.
could play in your game tomorrow.
Right.
And so you're going to see me out there sweating and throwing up because I'm definitely not in shape to do it. But wearing the jersey, and to the casual sports fan that just walked into the beer, be like, oh
Right.
yeah, that guy, he's a soccer player.
How do you like make adjustments like for those drivers? Because like, all right, well, if they don't know the correct race line or they do something that's not protocol, for a racetrack, then I have to adjust what I'm doing to make sure they're not injured and I'm not running my car off the track that I'm, whatever, being paid to drive or.
It's a good question. In fact, in my type of racing, road racing, very often I don't see those guys except once an hour, because that's when I would finally get the chance to lap them,
right.
or they would lap me if they were in a higher class but in a slower
right.
situation. So it's one of those things where it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That guy's paying someone to drive with him. He's paying for a team of mechanics to be there, and he's keeping a program running. And at the same time, he could also kill me.
Right.
So it's one of those things where you're like, okay, that's a bit of the risk that we're dealing with. And it's that team and that guy's job to figure it out. So he generally has a coach or a co-driver that's also coaching him and making him better. And so to relate to you, actually.
Sorry to interrupt you. So sometimes there's teams with a professional driver and then.
Very often.
Right.
Yeah.
They're paired together.
Especially at the WeatherTech level in IMSA, almost all of them are a pro-am combination.
So it's like, I've got this person to fund it, and I've got a professional driver to help me along and make sure that we're successful and that I have fun at the same time.
Exactly right. That is 100% it.
Okay.
And so for a lot of these guys, this is their vacation. They don't have a yacht. They don't have a helicopter. And
I'm okay, thanks.
And I'm done. Thank you very much.
Or they have all of those.
Or they have all of it. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So this is their vacation, and then you're like the caddy.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're their golf caddy. So it's like, okay, cool. Set my car up for me. Tell me which club I need to use. What gear should I use? And it's the same kind of mentality. And oftentimes, like in sprint racing, you don't even drive. You're just there to coach.
Yeah.
So to relate to you, because I know you know the person, and it'll kind of answer your question. The first race I did this year in World Challenge, there was 3 classes, and I'm in the fastest class, and the slowest class is a Porsche Cup car. And a guy named Preston Calvert's driving it, and Andrew Davis is Preston's coach.
Okay.
So I'm going around the track, and I notice every time I go to lap this guy, which is probably like once every 15 or 20 minutes, that he's not looking in his mirrors when he turns in. So I'll think he knows that I'm there and I'm about to pass him, and he just turns in on me. And if I don't check up or drive through the grass, we're going to wreck.
Right.
And I went over to Andrew right off the bat, and this is where, like, knowing the sport works. I go to Andrew. I don't go to the guy and embarrass him or make him upset.
Right.
I go to his coach or his team manager or whatever, but I know Andrew very well. So I just went over and I'm like, hey, not hating on your guy, but it was like 3 times now that he's turned in. I know he's new, and I know you're working with him, so here's the information. At the end of the season this year, he was one of the few guys in that class that I could absolutely trust every time I was lapping him because he was checking his mirrors. Because Andrew worked with him on it, and that guy actually got Rookie of the Year in his class, which I was really happy for him.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, if I just never said anything and I was like, I guess I'll just deal with it, he might have killed somebody, he might have wrecked something, he might have just got mad and gone home because he kept having this damage. And it's one of those things, he's so new that he's got a million things going on at once in his head and also needs to look in the mirror.
Right. Yeah, that's
but that's kind of how it works. You know, you go to whoever that is at that team, and you build relationships as you know. I know you know players from every team in the league, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if a guy on like the New York team is being a dick, you go to maybe his buddy and be like, hey, like, is this guy a problem?
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing in racing. It's just
that's cool.
Who you know and how you go to it. But it is a situation where that guy is paying. You know what I mean? He's not a hired gun, and when he is a hired gun, then generally that's on the upper management of the series. You know, your team owners and team managers, they talk to the other team owners, team managers, like, what's with your guy? Why is he always wrecking? So in this case, it's like you got to really be smart and political about how you handle that situation, because you just go over and like, this guy's a dick.
Yeah.
Well, that guy might start going endurance racing the next year and need 3 guys to hire per race week.
Right.
And I'm not going to get that call if I'm over there.
For sure,
and I shouldn't, because I was being
I guess that relates to the soccer world too, yeah.
So it's so much of it is the business side of it outweighs the sport side of it.
Right.
You know, like I tell a lot of kids when they ask me how to make it in racing, my first thought is like, are you rich? Do you have any money? Because someone's got to pay. And then my next thing is like, you'll find the speed if you really are serious and passionate about it. But if you don't have a good attitude, if nobody wants to hang around you, you're not going to get that job.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go to dinner with people you don't like.
Right.
You
for
know?
sure.
So you're not going to pay that guy.
For sure.
So that's kind of a very condensed version of it. But every time you watch a race, assume that half the people in it on any level are paying to be there.
Particularly in the WeatherTech series. Like I said, like NASCAR Sprint Cup, a lot of those guys are the
okay,
real deal.
but like F1.
But yeah, F1 half them are.
And that's the
IndyCar,
biggest series in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. IndyCar, half the grid.
But
wait, F1 as well?
Yeah, so if you look at guys like a lot of it.
And it doesn't mean that they necessarily have giant checkbooks themselves. Sometimes they bring in national money with them. They're Venezuelan, and all of a sudden, you know, so something like that.
Question: how ridiculous is what like Lewis Hamilton is doing right now.
It's amazing, and I think it almost gets lost on us because it's so assumed that he's going to win, and we're used to seeing
100%.
years
I
of.
feel like people don't appreciate like what he does race to race.
Exactly
Yeah.
right. If you look back at the years when Michael Schumacher was dominating a Ferrari like 6 championships in a row, or whatever it was, people would actually bitch like, "Oh, Schumacher's going to win again," and it's like, do you realize how
Hard
what
it
he
is,
is doing is amazing?
Right.
But instead, people just bitch and like,
Of
I don't
course.
like seeing the same car win all the time. Well, that I get. But in that series, it's an arms race, and right now Mercedes is, the dominant force,
sure.
and no one's going to stop them
Yeah.
until this big thing will come in and change the rules, and then someone will figure it out. But if you look at his record, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But because it's like so assumed he's going to win, people don't realize what he's doing is amazing. But I
Right.
feel like in 100 years, if you look back at his current results,
Right.
people are going to be like, "Whoa!"
Right.
And there's a couple things that Hamilton has going against him, which is unfortunate.
Flat
But,
bill hats.
Flat bill hat. Well, so that's part one. Is that I
Is that
think he's
disrespectful when it comes to?
No, it's just a joke.
I was like, oh.
yeah.
I was like, I do notice most brims are curved, but
He's,
in the
rightfully
racing
so.
world.
Lewis Hamilton has taken a attitude to brand himself that is very un-Formula One like. He's
Okay.
got tattoos. He takes selfies where his shirt's
Right.
off and he's working out.
Just another day at the gym. No big deal.
No big deal.
Like he's that guy with
Yeah.
the flat brim hats and the whole thing. Well, the Formula One culture is older, stuffy white people. I don't know any other way to put it. And
Right.
so because of that, they don't necessarily appreciate some 20-something-year-old kid that's doing this. And
Right.
so, and that's a fairly new thing for Hamilton
Yeah.
because he spent his entire career driving for McLaren, which is a very conservative, very traditional
From
brand.
go-karts all the way to F1.
All the
Yeah.
way to F1.
Like 12 years or
Exactly.
something.
So because of that, he spent his whole career under very strict orders. You can't go around fashioning tattoos. You're not going to wear flat brim hats. You're not going to take
So
selfies
when he got
and
out,
tweet it.
he was
So
like,
yeah, he went to
"This is
Mercedes
it."
like, party, Kardashians. You know?
Right.
That was my Lewis Hamilton impression, by the way. So
Terrible
it's like
accent.
it's like he's at lunch with us right now.
Yeah.
But so a lot of people just simply resent it because like, well, that guy's douchey. When in fact, like, that makes him unique in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. So,
I
I feel like that's how it is sport to sport too.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
you find someone who's different,
It's-
who's
well, yeah, I
so
mean-
dominant at what they do that you
Right.
can't really say anything to them.
That's why, like, people will tell me all the time, like, I think he's a douche or I don't like him. I love the guy.
That's
I
awesome,
do
man.
think some of his posts are a little bit like, look at me.
Yeah.
But I also think that he probably doesn't have a lot of people in his life that he truly can trust
For
or
sure. For sure.
relate to. I see a lot of his posts, and it's like him and his dogs. And I follow him on every form of social media because I do love the guy. But some of his posts, I'm like, man, this guy's alone.
Right,
Like in all these
right.
hotel rooms, all these amazing meals and everything, it's him and his dog.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or when he has a girlfriend, it's just those two. Because like in that sport, he's making what, like $100 million a year or
It's
something now.
No, it's not
ridiculous.
quite that. But
It's
yeah,
like 70
it's a lot of
million
money.
or
It's
something like
ridiculous.
that.
It's like
Yeah.
really high up there, and he's got his own jet, and he's
Right.
winning every weekend. And I think he's got some issues internally when you see how affected he is by certain things.
Right.
Well, so the motorsport world is filled with, and this is something that would carry on if you're looking at if you're serious about looking at the sports car career
Yeah.
sort of after soccer. The motorsport world, and I'm sure soccer is the same way, but the motorsport world is filled with haters. I mean, just people who
Yeah.
just love to put out vitriol. So Lewis Hamilton fits into that perfectly because you want to be a soccer player, an NFL player. There's a very defined path. If you're the top kid in your high school, you can go All-American. If you're one of the top All-Americans, you can get their opportunity to go to college and so on. Racing is not defined that way at all. It's very much defined by somebody who can afford the next opportunity, and there's a few exceptions here and there. Hamilton, from a very young age, was sort of picked up by McLaren, and they sort of said, "You're our guy. We're going to fund you through everything if you're good enough." And to his credit, he earned every next step he got because he won championships everywhere he went. But a lot of people honestly resent the fact that he presented a unique opportunity for McLaren to fund a kid, and there were a million other 11-year-old kids
Right,
who looked
right,
at
right.
that going, well, that wasn't me because this reason or that.
Yeah.
And so it never happened. But so a lot of people, I think, inherently resent him because he was picked at a very young age, quite frankly, because he was a minority.
Right.
And that's how a lot of people look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And right or wrong, that's how they look at
Right.
it. And so he's always going to get resentment for that, even though it's, he's earned every keep he's gotten as far as I'm concerned. But
A funny thing about Hamilton, and I like talking about him because it is so un-F1 to have any sort of like, oh, he posted a Snapchat of something like,
Right.
whoa, that's like that doesn't
if
happen.
you're not
You-
indulged in the racing world through and through 100% all day, every day, they expect you to.
And when you see him and Nico, they have like their beef, and
Yeah.
it's very like cold Well, he screwed up because on Snapchat a few weeks ago, which I started following him immediately because I'm like, I just got to see what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
He posts a video of Nico Rosberg kicking a soccer ball outside of the window of the hotel they were in or something.
Yeah.
And he was making comments at Nico, like Nico can't hear him, but they weren't like, I hate this guy comments. They were like, it's Nico. So I almost wonder if when they're like, I need to be this way because I'm on TV and this is going to build the rivalry. But in real life, it's like,
Well, and if
whatever.
if you have a specific team like Mercedes, who's just kicking everybody's ass,
Yeah.
you got to have some sort of storyline.
Right.
So why not have a
Right.
rivalry?
Yeah.
in it? But
So I think he understands that,
Yeah.
and that's why he's willing to be a little bit like, whatever.
How were you when you started racing?
I didn't really get into racing until I was like, I mean, I was in it because my dad, but I
Right.
wasn't driving until I was probably 13 doing
Really?
karts, and
Okay.
then I switched to cars when I was 16 or 17. But I was only probably racing like 2 or 3 times a year because we don't have any money. I was having to like work
Yeah.
for race teams to pay to drive cars.
Yeah.
And I got very fortunate that a couple people gave me massive breaks.
Right.
But it was like, if they didn't do that,
Right.
I'm just never going to get the ride because
Yeah.
I don't have any money.
Yeah. How easy is it for you to adjust to different cars? So like say like some drivers drive a prototype and then they'll go drive like the GTD car.
Right.
Like how do you?
It's at first when you're first starting out, because I literally, my first race was in a front wheel drive Nissan Sentra.
Actually, that's what I learned to drive stick on.
A Nissan Sentra?
Yeah, my uncle actually built one himself.
Nice.
We're going to be
and-
fine.
you're fine.
Yeah, so it
Really,
was,
that's the Georgia
it was
thing to
crazy.
do.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so he threw like a turbo in there, and he built that engine, and literally was like, "Yo, I'm gonna teach you how to drive in this." And
Right.
cool. So then I drove from actually Athens back to where I live. The first day I learned how to drive a stick, my dad's like,
Let's
"You're
go."
driving home." I was
Right.
like, "What are you talking about?" Like, so every traffic light, I'm
He's
just
like, he's looking for hills and
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. But it was cool. But yeah, Sentra was the first car that I learned how to drive on. So the first time which was actually quite different, learning how to control that car than my 370 or 350 that I had before.
Right.
Completely different having a wheel. And I never knew until I actually got in the car and was like, all right, this is exactly what people are talking about.
Right.
Like that. So
For the driving thing, when I was first starting out, it was like a big, it was like, mess with my head because I'm like, man, because there's this stigma that comes along with drivers sometimes, like, oh, he's a front wheel drive guy, or he's a prototype guy, or an open wheel guy, or a GT guy, and very rarely do people get the respect they deserve that they can just figure out how to drive a race car.
Right.
You look at a guy like Juan Montoya, he's raced NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, sports cars. He's good in everything.
Yeah.
He's the man. That's how old racers were. You know,
Yeah.
AJ Foyt's and Dan Gurney's, they get in anything and win. And I always wanted to be that way. So anytime anyone offered me a drive in anything, I was like, yes, I'll drive it. I don't
Right.
care. So I got to drive a bunch of really interesting stuff starting out because it was like you just take whatever opportunity you can get.
Right.
And you look at like a traditional open wheel guy, he starts in go-karts, then he gets in like a Formula 2000 and a Formula Mazda and Indy Lights and then a Indy car, hopefully.
right.
And when you look at that guy's going to get into like a GS Mustang and be not the fastest guy because there's a lot more weight and,
Right.
and heavy, less braking capability, no downforce.
Right.
So anytime I had an opportunity, I just jumped into anything I could. So now it literally is like just you go, oh, okay, I'll be able to drive this more aggressively,
Right.
or I'll be able to drive that, not as aggressively, or
How much of a difference between slicks and regular?
massive.
Yeah.
In fact, I tell people, because a lot of times people want to do track days. And I'm like, track days are cool and all, but street tires don't work the way race tires
Right.
do. Like when they lose grip, they tend to freaking really lose grip. In a slick, you can kind of bring it back a little easier.
Right.
So I think if you can go really fast on street tires, when you get on slicks, you're going to be really good.
Yeah.
But street tires make me nervous on street cars on racetracks
Right.
because that's where I see a lot of crashes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, noted.
But when
That's
you put
good.
slicks on, it's like night and day.
Really?
Yeah. And for anybody listening at home, you're going to come across people trying to sell you things. I'm sure you already have with your Nissan. 'Cause
Yeah.
I saw it. It's all kitted up and
Yeah.
looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are guys that are like, oh, you need this 15 horsepower. You
Right.
need this 10 horsepower
Right.
chip. You need this, and this, and this. A good set of tires is like 3 seconds a lap.
Okay.
15 horsepower is like a tenth.
Right.
You're not even going to notice it.
Right.
But a good set of tires will keep you going. And it's so funny to me how much we see this crap at like track days and stuff. Like, oh, the new wing. And you're like, dude, I could take that wing off and smoke you. Why are you running on tires?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So for anybody listening,
Yeah.
yeah. And Continental sells tires, don't they, Sean?
They do.
So anybody out there in
At
need
any-
of new tires?
Or General Tire. And that's kind of phase 2 of sort of the racing career, if you're going to get entered, is for lack of a better expression, the racing douche, and how to not be that guy.
Right.
So, so the truth is, you're going to show up on the scene, and you're going to be this good-looking 20-something-year-old soccer player. And
How long do you think you're going to play for soccer?
Goalkeepers play until they're maybe about like 38.
Okay, so he'll be a good-looking 38-year-old.
Yeah. So you're going to be an okay-looking 38-year-old guy. I was just saying, you can't be as good-looking as you are now at 38.
Easy.
Just,
He's now coming back at me.
He's
for
like,
the
don't
dig
compare
earlier.
me to you.
Right.
it's like,
He's like, I'm not you.
I was
Heckman.
generous to you once today, and this is how you repay me. I'm sure it's just like soccer in the sense it's an insular world. Everybody talks.
Yeah.
And there are some bells you kind of can't unring. So
Okay.
if you show up on the scene as a guy who knows more than you really do, if you
Right.
show up on the scene as a guy who's full of shit,
Right.
that gets around
For sure.
real fast
Okay.
with all the kind of catty girls.
I feel like
So-
you're just preparing him for you.
Compared to you?
Yeah,
No.
okay.
Like when. I think we're all good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, man.
No,
Oh, just because I don't want to hate him.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, we're
because
gonna run into each other.
the guy
again.
I'm describing is the guy I deal with all the time, and what by guy I mean sort of the archetypical guy. There's
Okay.
not one specific person, although there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me who this guy was. I was
Let
like,
me give you a list of
You
names.
realize
that fit this
we're,
criteria.
Don't be Rick Thompson.
I guess you can edit it out anyway, so you're
If you're showing up in the scene and you're in your late 30s and you're coming as an ex-athlete, no one is assuming that you're there because you're there on driving talent. They're
Right.
assuming you're there because you have sponsorship
Right.
or you're rich or
Okay.
something like that.
Right.
Accept that. Don't fight it, because
Right.
if you fight it, you're not helping anything.
Right.
And so what's going to happen is two things. One, there are going to be some people out there who's like, this guy's green. I'm going to manipulate the out of him. and there's a lot of them. I mean, countless. And for legal reasons, we won't say who right now. But to Ryan's point, the guy who sells you on that $50,000 upgrade that's going to buy you 15 horsepower.
Right.
Set of
where it's
tires
like,
is $2,000.
yeah, when a set of tires is $2,000, or a track rental is worth only a few grand, and that's going to gain you the most time
Right.
for the next few days.
Seat time.
So it's really about finding a friendship network, a Ryan, a me, an Andy Lally, somebody who's going to tell you the truth,
Right.
Who has literally no vested interest in your money.
Right, for
you
sure,
know what I mean?
for sure.
And those are the guys who are going to help you for the most part.
And that's hard to find because
Yeah.
I'm sure you get this on your side from like agents and,
Oh, yeah.
and potential
Yeah, all over the place.
sponsorship
Yep.
where they're like, hey, buddy, but really what they're wanting is like, how can I get my 10%
Right.
off of you?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're going to come across that worse in racing because you'll be paying or someone will be paying on your
For
behalf
race, Right.
to their account to them to
Yeah.
run. So
Right.
they're like, okay, how can this guy make me money? And so I didn't have this issue because I have no money. So it was literally like, oh, what do you want? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you know.
Right.
But then other kids or even business guys come in, and we've seen this from guys that are like good, hardworking dudes that have made a fortune,
Mm-hmm.
and they just get rung through the ladder on like, oh, you need this, and you got to hire this, got to hire
Yeah.
this. And it's not to help that guy; it's to help,
It's
you know.
Right,
help
for
that
sure.
guy's
Yeah.
bottom line, and it's painful to watch because you see guys who you can tell they've put their heart, blood, and soul into this deal, and now they're losing money left and right because somebody's selling them on stuff they don't need.
Yeah.
So,
Have you seen anybody ever hop into, with no experience or little to no experience, hop in a car and be like, wow,
Yes.
like this
Yeah.
dude is
Honestly.
ridiculously talented, and I don't know how he's doing that with the car right now.
Yeah,
does- it does happen.
it's not as common, obviously, because it's
For sure.
it's like getting a winning lottery ticket.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there are a couple people. One guy that sticks out in my mind. He was a businessman named John Field. I think he might be in jail now.
Yikes.
oh, you might be right. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, go
he
Allegedly.
It was some sort of tax thing. So he didn't kill anybody.
That
Oh,
we
that's
know
okay.
of. That we know of.
Yeah.
That we know of.
A guy named John Field. He used to race. He's a gentleman guy. He started his own team out of Ohio, and he owned like it was like a sports bar called Banana Joe's, and it was kind of like almost like a Fuddruckers or something. You know, like they had some
Something
gaming.
standard,
and,
yeah.
And he owned like 5 or 6 of them. That's how he made his money. And this guy was a wild man in the sense of button-down shirt, normal guy.
Right.
You know, have a conversation with him. But he would fly in for the Daytona Test Days, which is like a 3-day event a month before the 24 Hours of Daytona, where you kind of get everything ready, get your lineups all sorted out, and get who you're going to have
Right.
for your car. And then you come back a few weeks later and do the race. He would fly in on like the Sunday at the last minute because he had business stuff going on, get in the car, and he was driving prototypes. He was in the top class. And he would get in the car and he'd go out and he'd match Oliver Gavin, his teammates, fast lap. And he's a gentleman guy. He's not a pro race car driver.
Right.
And that has never left my mind from the first time I saw it back in like 01. Because I'm like, from my own racing at that point, which hadn't been very much, I'm like, I have to work up to it. Like, I can't just get in a car and bam.
Right.
And I'm 16 at the time, and
Right.
he's 45-year-old businessman from
Right.
Ohio, and he was like that. He would
Right.
just go out and drive so fast, and he was just a guy.
Right.
Like, he wasn't like a
How do you
15 champion or anything.
How much time do you, when we say seat time, how much seat time are you talking about? Like, how much time do you think he spent in the seat before, like in regular cars, like in his fun cars on the track?
I would say, maybe 2 seasons worth.
Right.
But that's like through everything,
Right.
because he was a business guy first,
Right.
and this was his hobby. It's surprising every now and then you get a guy that shows up who's not really raced much and gets in the car, and you're like, man, me and this guy can win a championship together.
Right,
You know. The unfortunate thing is I coach a guy now in Ferraris, a guy named Joe Rubo, and he runs in the older Ferrari Challenge Series.
Okay.
And he makes good money, but he's not a multimillionaire that can just afford to
Right.
blow it
Yeah.
all away. And he's only been racing for like 3 years, and he's within a half second of Andy Lally and I when we coach him in his Ferrari.
Really?
And it's a GT speed car. It's fast. It's
Right.
not like a small ST car. And we have this joke back and forth because I'm like, Joe, win the lottery, would you? Because with your speed,
We drive with you.
we could drive together.
Right.
We would win championships.
Right.
And he's like, I know, So
Yeah.
it's like it's one of those things.
That's sweet.
But,
I'm headed out to actually Monterey
Yeah.
in a month, or less than a month, maybe 3 weeks, to do, I guess, the pro course for the Mercedes AMG
the
Driving
AMG Driving
Yeah.
Academy. So
Just
I work with the company that basically runs it, a company called AMCI. They run it for
Okay.
Mercedes, and I
Nice.
know a lot of people you'd be with. But you'll be doing that at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that leads us perfectly into our our
They,
question segment.
So Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca has a president, Jill Campbell,
Okay.
who is an awesome lady. We'd never met her
Yeah.
until 3 days ago, which is crazy.
We met
to
her just like we met you.
Okay.
Even
Yeah.
though
Alright.
thank you. She works in the
We're in the
sport,
same
so
sport,
we
but we've
should
never met.
we should know her. And so for the listeners at home, we will be doing a pass along question. So in this segment, you're going to answer a question from Jill,
Okay.
and then we'll ask you a question. Or sorry, you'll have a question for our next guest, who is John DeGeese.
John DeGeese
from Sports Car
So we believe.
365.
Okay.
So first off, Jill Campbell from Laguna Seca, English lady, hilarious. Great sense of humor,
Yeah.
like immediately dirty jokes and just fun. And we were like, okay, this is going to be great. And we had a great lunch with her. And so along those lines, her question for Sean Johnson, the Chicago Fire soccer goalie,
Fire.
is it true what they say about goalies and how they have big hands? ... And is it true what they say about big hands?
I can only speak for myself.
Okay. And proceed.
Yeah. Well,
Moving right along.
Yep.
That was the
answer is
best.
yes.
That was the best answer we've had. And then I answered this question immediately, but she wanted to change it to make it a little bit more professional, but no. Who is the fitter athlete, a driver or a soccer player? And I immediately said soccer player.
I would agree at some extent, but I hear things that some race car drivers actually run like triathlons and
Oh no, for
all
sure.
sorts of
And-
do fitness freaks.
Yeah,
to
and
stay
I
in
think
shape.
that comes more from the competition side of
Right.
of a driver.
Yeah.
You got the same mindset
Yeah.
of using that, you go and do other stuff. And I'm not saying it's easy to be a driver, but I played in adult league soccer like 4 years ago, and I was in good shape at the time, and I was like, this is hard.
It's tough.
Just like the cardio,
It's
because it's
tough.
just nonstop
My
sprints.
question is, would I struggle like in an endurance race with if let's just say I had a car with a ton of downforce and like good braking capabilities, would I struggle with my neck and
You would be okay. Your neck would be the thing you'd have to work on,
Right.
but everything else would be fine. However, but let me explain this. If we were to take the same forces applied to you and we put you in a closed room in a gym somewhere and applied it to you, you'd be totally fine. You would be right through the roof,
Got
no
it.
problem. You'd be good to go. If we put you in a race car and we send you on a racetrack, your heart rate's going to go through the roof, and you're gonna drain yourself because of all the extra things that aren't in the gym.
right,
Adrenaline dropping, fear,
right, yeah, 100%,
mental
yeah,
incapacity to deal with what's going on around you, nervousness, all of that stuff adds up. And
Okay.
when you add that to it, it takes a long time until you're in a comfortable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So physically you'd be fine, but you would drain yourself because of all the uncertainties that you'd be going through. Once you get used to it, what I always tell this to guys I coach, because to get the most out of a car, at like the level that I'm at, you are literally on the edge of crashing or going as fast as that car can actually go.
Right.
And so that's basically living on the edge of chaos.
Right.
And once chaos becomes the norm,
Right.
it's not chaos anymore.
For sure.
So once you get comfortable sliding through corners side by side at whatever speeds with guys in the rain,
Right.
and you do it all the time,
Right.
it's just like playing soccer.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But until that point comes, you're going to get out of a car after like 20 minutes on track,
You're
and you're
like,
like, God, my hands
Yeah.
are tired.
Yeah.
You know, you're like,
For
I'm
sure.
sweating, and it's not even that hot out because
think
you're just so
The
amped.
one thing I thought about that would freak me out on a race, like at a racetrack right now, is if I was in a car and I was like coming along here and like I had faster cars in the track that were way faster, and I'm braking now, and all of a sudden I'm about to turn in, and I see a car go woo, and then brake and then turn. Like I'd be like,
Well, and that's where driving all the time becomes a very healthy thing to do.
Right.
Because the second that the driving part becomes second nature, life is going to be a lot easier that you can sort of calmly think your way through. Because
Right.
at that instant you're sort of got the tunnel vision and you're just worried about where your steering wheel is. Life is very different.
Right.
So.
I literally can't imagine being like about to turn in, or like be like to the point where I'm now about to turn the car in. The car literally has braking capabilities enough to like be going pretty much as fast as I was, like 200 feet, 300 feet back from where I am now.
It's one of those things that with road racing, because very rarely do other types of racing allow multiple classes. So when you're doing because when you retire from soccer and you start racing, you're going to go to like an SCCA regional race at
Right.
Road Atlanta or a NASA event at VIR, and you'll be out there on track with like up to 12 different classes, and you could be in a Spec Miata, which is like a 100-mile-an-hour top speed
Yeah.
type of thing. And there could be a guy out there in a Trans Am Camaro that can go 200 miles an hour.
Right.
And you could be on the track with him at the exact same time,
Right.
both figuring it out. And funny enough, throughout your career, you'll notice like you'll be passing the guy in the Camaro
Right.
through the corners, and then on the next straightaway he blasts by, and then
Right.
you catch up to him on the brakes.
Right.
And it's just things like that happen throughout your
Yeah.
upbringing and racing. But it's just also, like Sean just said, it gives you experience. And so much of what I do now is like, okay, I know how to deal with this because I saw it one time when it was raining
Yep.
here or raining there and so forth. Yeah. So our next guest will be John DeGeese from Sports Car 365. And if you could ask John DeGeese one question about anything, what would it be?
Sports Car 365. Give me a little bit.
So you're saying you don't know who Sports Car 365 and John
You don't know
DeGeese
about
is?
sports car legend John DeGeese. He lives, eats, breathes sports car racing.
Okay.
If we mention Chicago Fire to him when we see him this
He
evening,
will not
he won't know
that
what
is.
that.
He'll say 911.
Yeah, at most he'll
Yeah.
think maybe we're talking about the fire department.
How about this? All right.
And it doesn't have to be a racing question. And it certainly doesn't have to be serious.
All right. Just one question.
It could be
Whatever.
All right.
Yeah,
you
whatever.
You could ask. So, if you had a choice, would you choose between Qdoba and Panda Express, and why? That'd be my first question.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's going in.
That's going in.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. We'll stick with the first question and see how you
Yeah,
respond.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of racing do you watch now to, keep into it? Like
Yeah,
what
I watch
you going?
all sorts, and
Yeah.
we obviously talked about Lewis Hamilton, so I keep track of like Formula One and through Continental and like developing these relationships with
Right.
drivers. I basically followed like the Tudor series. Kept track and
Yeah, it's the WeatherTech series now.
or well
Technically,
yeah before it changed.
they haven't had their first race yet.
That is no. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, because at
We're gonna
Ro-
insert
I
that.
wrote-
WeatherTech.
I Road America was still Tudor, and then
Yeah.
they changed
Yeah,
to
yeah,
WeatherTech.
yeah.
It's
right.
WeatherTech as of now.
Right,
basically,
right,
last
right,
season.
yeah.
So,
But yeah, it was kind of cool. And then Townsend Bell, through the What You Got competition, I was able to like latch on and follow him through all of the events he was doing. It was
Right.
kind of cool to see, them win a championship this year. And yeah, it's been cool just to follow different racing series. And anytime racing's on TV, I'll leave it on. And
Yeah, it was impressive to watch Townsend at Le Mans because lap after lap, I mean, he was almost within a second or second and a half of Patrick Long.
yeah,
Which is tough to do. I mean, like easily lap after lap, it seemed like if you can get within 2 seconds of Patrick Long,
Patrick Long's the man.
then you're.
Is he-
doing a good job.
Patrick Long's
Oh, Patrick Long's badass. Yeah.
Factory Porsche driver. He's the
Yeah.
guy that drives with Patrick Dempsey.
right.
So
okay.
you don't need to know anything about
Right,
him
right.
other than that he's
So,
the guy that
well,
drives with Patrick
like,
Dempsey.
so from a racer standpoint, like he is the elite of the elite.
He is.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And he's like, if you're looking at people to aspire to professionally as a driver, he's one of those guys, you know, that you would say this is a kid who has done it right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's very polished. He doesn't say stupid stuff
Right.
to a fault for our podcast.
Yeah, we actually tried to get him to, and he wouldn't.
And he
do it.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
was
wanted.
way too
He's
polished.
like, we're gonna go off all out here.
We're going for
and
it.
it was
And
like
it's
the most
no.
perfectly said thing ever. You're like, ah.
But like we talked about earlier, the racing douche is a very easy. It's a very easy trap to fall
Yeah,
into.
yeah.
And so, and it's very hard because most people yourself would be a perfect example of somebody who's going to come in as an accomplished athlete, or most people who come in are accomplished businessmen, or they were born into a position where they've had a lot of
Right, for
access
sure.
to things. And so all three of those things give you sort of a mindset that you can conquer the world and get. So all of a sudden it makes you think, okay, well, I'm already qualified to do this, that, or the other thing. And the guys who succeed are the guys who check their egos at the door and
Yeah.
say, okay, Ryan Eversley says you're going to be better doing a year of racing in a Miata.
Right.
I should damn listen to him.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the guys who do that are the guys who succeed
Right.
for the most part, who,
Sure.
who say that, who don't come in with some stupid story about, oh, well, my sponsor wants me to do this. No, that's not what they want. It's things like we hear that all the time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, my sponsor wants me in tutor. Like, no, they don't. That's your dad. What
Right.
are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to drive the big car.
Yeah,
We get
that's
it.
what it is.
Yeah.
And so if you can come in with a certain sense of humility and say,
Right.
okay,
For sure.
because the street Lamborghini that you've been driving for the last year does not translate to really being at the limits turn after turn after turn
Sure.
after turn. And so that's where you're listening to the people around you, just like it would be in
I would,
soccer.
I would say I would love to. I've taken. I've been in the passenger seat of like a Radical. That's probably
Oh yeah,
the,
those are fast.
the coolest car I've been in to date. But I want to feel on a consistent basis how it feels to be at the limit all the time. And I guess obviously I'll get to the point where I can be somewhere close to that limit. But in that process, is there anything that you would say that I need to do, starting out, or is what's imperative? Is it just seat time on the track, or is it also the skid pad, or is it autocross, or is it?
It's seat time in almost anything you can get in. Like if you can get in a go-kart because it's available in the winter.
Right.
Because if you're still up here, you're not gonna be able
Our
to do a whole lot.
go-karts
Carts
just
are
about,
awesome, and they if you were 10 years old, I'd be like, let's get you a go-kart,
Right.
get you going again, going. But what they do is they keep all the reactions sharp. They give you the basic understanding of chassis, and
Right.
balance, and things like that. It just keeps muscle memory going the right way.
Right.
And then when you have the time, if you can get on a track day, if you can go do a lapping day at Skip Arbor or Bob Bondurant or anything like that. But right now is because you have a real job, you're busy. It's just do something once a month to keep yourself
Right.
into it, and
Right.
then you'll be fine when it's time to actually start, and you'll continue to have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Just won't be recorded.
And even go-karts. Go-karts are fine.
Yeah,
in that
and
same level.
there are people that just do that as their hobby
Yeah,
instead of
cool.
blowing it out with
Cool.
GT cars.
Yeah, I'm
Is,
sure
is your girlfriend rich?
Oh, maybe.
Her
He's thinking about
her
it.
personally, probably not at this point.
Not at this point.
Yeah.
Will she be within a few years?
Maybe. I mean,
And she'll stick with you, not
her
trade
dad-
up?
Yeah, hopefully.
Straight up.
Hopefully, I can make enough in the short term to still be around
Okay.
when she gets rich.
'Cause if not, if she's cool with it, maybe take a couple years off. Find somebody super wealthy. Then divorce, take half. Is it Illinois 50-50 state? I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
Okay.
think Georgia.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Georgia
yeah.
is 50-50?
Yeah.
Okay, see there. So this is, honestly, this is the smartest game plan
I think
you'll
she
ever
might
hear.
be okay with this. To be
Okay,
fair.
so-
If she benefits in the long run,
She will.
she's-
And so this is my point. This
Nah.
is the smartest career advice
Yeah.
you're ever going to really get, which
Okay.
is marry rich.
Yeah, listen to
You
Sean.
can just be like, dude, look at me and think that guy's successful. I'm going to listen to him. 2 or 3 years.
Right.
No prenups.
Of course.
50-50 state.
No prenups.
No prenups.
Standard. Right.
Are you a fan of Yeezy?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll be the gold digger equivalent.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
And she'll be driving off in a
I
Honda.
have no problem
know.
being a sugar daddy.
Yeah,
or
sugar mama.
Yeah, finding a
That's what
sugar
you want.
mama.
Yeah. So and after just 2 or 3 years of that, cash out.
What's happening right now?
I'm giving honest to God good career advice.
This was his plan in his head
Right.
that he wanted to follow. So now he's trying
Yeah,
to
and
live
I failed.
I was going to
vicariously
say,
through me.
what's this based off of?
I think there's
I slept on your
kidnapping
couch
involved
last
in the
week.
plan that he's going to
No,
come up with.
and why am I not driving?
Yeah, you're just about to get to the kidnapping part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
So
then
ransom.
go to
the
war
ransom.
for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's a city. It's called Juarez. Now. Anyway.
Tell us about having a Lamborghini for a year.
Yeah, Lamborghini was awesome.
Yeah.
I thought because getting in the car and driving in the What You Got competition, obviously I had no autocross experience whatsoever, and I was sure like most of the guys in the competition had no experience driving a car, and I know that like there were a few guys that had been like on a racetrack doing like some like promotional event or like had some track days in Kansas City, which is cool, but didn't know what to expect, and I was only driving first gear around this autocross track, and then so when I got to basically you blow through first, second, third, do whatever I wanted. Yeah, it was awesome, and then obviously got more comfortable in that car, and it's a pretty well balanced car. I mean, I guess it's a super expensive car, so you're getting what you pay for, I guess. But it was cool to drive around and just feel like pretty much secure in the car all the time. It had so much power. Yeah.
Now, were you given any sort of rules? Like, were they like, hey, look, 5,000 miles, like, don't put regular gas in it? Like, was there any stipulations that went with getting a free Lamborghini?
Yeah, I had a mileage limit.
How much was it?
What is it?
Yeah.
we were talking about
we were
this coming
joking
in.
about it earlier.
All right, yeah, so I had...
And I think it's public. The car was given by O'Gara.
It was
Beverly Hills Lamborghini.
Beverly Hills Lamborghini,
By, Tom
yes.
O'Gara.
Tom O'Gara's the man.
Yeah. By the way, Lamborghini's gone. 10 months.
Oh, it was a 10-month
Oh,
lease.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
no,
you
we
could-
saw the thing.
Yeah, so feel free to edit this or keep it, whatever you want to do. So 10 months. The car got picked up yesterday,
Right.
Oh,
literally.
sad.
I was talking to Sherry about it.
You're like, what's the deal?
I was so gassed. So I get a call. They're like, yeah, your lease is almost up, blah, blah, blah. It's, 10 months, 4,000 miles, and no other stipulations. Like, they took care of everything else.
Right.
Insurance, whatever.
That's cool, yeah.
Oh, they took it out of the insurance.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Which is very nice. But my driving record, I have literally
would be
nothing.
fine. Yeah.
So
Right.
that was my thing. I was like, like going forward, check driving records. If they're good, no problem. Sign something saying
You're not gonna be an
if
idiot.
anything happens in this time period, you
Yeah,
assume
it's
all
on you.
responsibility.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, right.
but yeah, so I get a call from the guy at Lamborghini. He's like, yeah, we're gonna pick the car up, blah blah blah. We're gonna like organize this, and I'm like looking at my calendar. I'm like, yeah, it's only October, and I realized like I knew the 4,000 miles, so I have like my odometer set. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
How
gonna
many
drive
you
it
put on?
right up to it. So,
399, yeah.
No, this is where like
I see what's happening.
Here we go.
yeah, so I'm not happy. So I got to maybe 3,600 miles, 3,500 miles.
Yeah, right.
I have a solid amount of mileage left to do, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Plenty
Yeah,
to do, yeah.
like tires are basically brand new, no problem. Like I'm gonna give this car back to you intact
Yeah.
with 0 tires on it. So
Correct. You've driven rental cars. You
yeah,
get it.
I get a call and saying we're gonna pick the car up at the end of next week. I'll tell them after Wednesday you're available to pick the car up. I go, you know what? No problem. Like that's what this contract says. We're good. They were supposed to call me and tell me when they're picking the car up. I'm on my way to the stadium in a Lamborghini, and they go, I get a call. Hey, this is so-and-so Motorsports. We're picking the car up today. We're in Gary, Indiana. We're about 2 hours away. I said, or not an hour away in Gary, Indiana. And I'm like, wait, like, you're picking the car up today? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're on the way. I go, and who was going to tell me, like, you guys were coming to pick the car up? He's like, they're supposed to have called you. Didn't call.
Was this directly with O'Gara?
Yeah. What's that?
Was it directly with O'Gara?
The chat I had was with some guy that worked for Lamborghini, but he was like,
Okay.
I'll put you in contact with the car company. They'll organize when they come and pick the car up. And he's like, they should have called you regardless and told you when we're
Yeah,
coming to
no
pick the car up.
kidding.
So get to the stadium, still have like whatever, 500, 600 miles left to burn. And he's on the way, and I'm like panicking. I'm like, I have to practice. I have to go do rehab. I have to go
Yeah,
run
you got to do your
fitness.
job, right?
He's going to be here at a certain time. Like, there's only so much I can do between now and then.
Right.
And then I just gave up. I was like, you know what? I thought about just like blowing past him and then just going for like an hour and then coming back. And like teammates were supposed to get right, all this stuff. But
Right.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, I had a car for 10
Right.
months, so
Right.
I mean, anything that I could do in 3,600 miles.
Have you
sure
have you
was
thought about
done.
maybe having a racer name beyond just Sean Johnson? Because that's just too average.
Yeah, that is pretty average.
We need to.
I may legally change my name if I ever
To
get
what?
into racing.
To like a racing name?
Yeah, I'm
So
not
like
sure.
what would it be?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sean Johnson Hamilton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
could be.
I would come up with a ridiculous story about how I was related to Hamilton. And,
You should.
yeah.
You're going to be fine as a driver.
Yeah.
Yeah. That still happens.
I'll for sure make up a cool story to go along with the name change.
Okay.
Yeah, but haven't really thought about that.
Okay.
Haven't really thought about that.
If there's a driver you should model yourself after, it's Austin Dillon. You need because he's got like 8 signature moves when he wins a race, and you should probably have like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Well, why don't
Yeah.
you do that now in soccer? Like, do you have a thing like where you wear like green gloves when everybody else is wearing, or is there any like trademark Sean Johnson thing?
Like, you
Because
make
we're
the
going to a
block.
game tomorrow.
That's
Like, if
okay.
you were to be in the game,
Now, how do we pretend like we know you?
now hang on,
We're
let's
there.
get
Oh, okay.
one thing at a time. But is that like is there a thing that you do where it's like Sean's always got his red cleats on, or
I would say I mean
Cowboy
my
hat.
routine's pretty much the same
Right.
every game, so they can look forward to it and like always stay and like
you just
cheer the
whatever.
fans. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have any like crazy thing I do after making a save because I think that'll blow up really
It's
quickly
like,
in
my
your
trademark
face.
is blocking fucking balls.
Yeah, like nah.
My trademark's being in
be
Major League
fair,
Soccer.
I thought about getting involved in celebrations,
Yeah.
and this is honest truth. I've said if they could do something like across the field where like they score and I either full out sprint and get involved in the celebration, or they look across like he runs like sprints back to half
Yeah.
field, like does like a sharpshooter back to my goal.
Yes, please.
And I just get hit and I
Please.
fall dead.
Please.
And then they come over
make
and
us
like
happy.
resuscitate me. That would be
Please make us happy.
the coolest thing.
Please
in the
make
world.
us happy. Please do this.
Yeah.
Is there there's no rules against it like in NFL, right?
No.
Oh, please do that.
Yeah.
Just for us.
Yeah, it should
But-
turn into
but-
like a full thing.
Yeah.
I would, but
There's
I'm-
like a
I'm-
whole
I'm
scene.
not-
There's like a Western shootout, and there's like a
Yeah.
countdown.
Yeah.
And then
And
there's a
literally,
guy
the
like doing
celebration
clock
spans
moves.
for like 5 minutes, and the trans like, what's
To
the
the point where people are like, we gotta go.
We were with it for the first 20
Put the kids
seconds,
to
but now
bed.
it's like, yeah.
It's still going. Guys, it's dark out.
we were with them. That's excellent.
I actually don't know what the protocol would be if a celebration lasted for like 10 minutes.
So
If it
this
would,
is
like-
you guys are last
This is-
place.
Yeah.
Who
yeah.
cares?
Let's get some fans.
Yeah.
Let's get some
Let's do
viral
this.
buzz
True,
going.
True.
All right, we Ryan and I are marketing geniuses. So can we get in
And
the
I
locker room
won't. I won't.
because we have to work on this. I think we have to.
I
coach
could.
you
I could
guys.
ask. I could ask the media guy if you guys
Oh.
get in the locker room. It depends on if you guys.
Well, we
got
weren't
there a
actually
little-
planning on it, but we would love it.
If you guys got there a little earlier, then
Sure.
yeah.
Oh, okay. We're known for being on
Yeah.
time.
I won't. Unfortunately, won't be playing because
Yeah,
I'm
right,
not
right,
But
Have you ever done men's national team single?
what's that?
Have you ever traveled with men's national team single?
Yes.
Which country is best?
That's a good question. Whew. I really liked Austria and Cyprus.
Okay. Cyprus.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard good things about the Czech Republic. I've heard good things about Amsterdam, obviously, but I've never been there. So
Do you know Spencer Rumpelli?
is that?
Spencer Rumpelli?
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Maybe.
he killed somebody.
Oh, well, that's a good reason not to know him. Then.
So I'm trying to think of what else.
I'm happy.
Well, I
I'm
have
happy.
one
Good
last
lunch.
question for
Yeah.
you.
Oh,
So,
okay, yeah. It's your
so
podcast.
going to the Mazda Speedway. The
Mazda Raceway, Laguna
infamous-
Seca.
The infamous.
Say
the
hello to
infamous-
the president, Jill Campbell.
What's that?
If you see
Actually, we need to make that happen.
yeah, if you
Like,
see a
we
woman with
need-
purple hair.
Yeah, we're gonna send her over to say
Yeah?
hello because
Okay.
that would be.
'Cause she's awesome.
Well, because when
We
are you gonna
want
do
that.
that?
Yeah.
When-
14 and 15
Of
November.
Perfect.
that's perfect. This isn't gonna air until like the 18th or be
Okay.
available for download till the
Okay.
18th.
Sweet.
So we could get a photo of them.
The two of you.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So that the infamous, I guess, blind turn.
Corkscrew.
Yeah.
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 You
Is
need,
that?
you need to know it's called the corkscrew because if you said that to like a bunch of racers, they'd be like, "This guy's out of here."
Again,
yeah.
you can't unring that bell.
Yeah, it'd be
Gotcha.
like me like saying like, "Oh, did you hit a home run?"
Okay.
You know, or
All right,
like
cool,
how many
cool, cool.
touchdowns do you get?
The corkscrew.
The corkscrew. It's a big deal. So what was the question about it? Like,
Okay. What is there? Is there anything to know as far as? I mean, at the pace that I'm going to be going through there, probably.
They'll tell you you'll be with the instructors,
Right.
and they'll if they're smart, they'll tell you that there's a tree that when you get to the top of the hill, if you look straight at the tree, when the world drops down and away, you'll be right on line.
Okay.
So, funny story about that is the first time I went there, I knew about the tree, but no one had shown me which one to look for.
Right. So you're
And so I like get to the top of the hill and I turn in and there's a tree and I'm like, that's got to be it. And I just went
Right.
right back to the gas and I drove straight through the gravel trap.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally was 4 feet off the road. Just pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And
So I've
then-
actually been. So it's kind of cool. I mean, just for fun. I mean, I play like all
Gran
sorts of
Turismo or
video
something.
games. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I've got like Forza and
Right.
like I've got a little steering wheel set up at home.
Do you
but-
play FIFA?
Yeah.
Do you play soccer?
Yeah.
that's
I
cool.
love FIFA.
Who do you
FIFA's
play
my
as?
favorite. What's that? I don't
You-
play as myself. If that's what you're
Oh,
getting
okay.
at. Yeah.
See,
Nah.
because I've been told like that's
Nah.
like the douche
only-
move.
the
I'm like,
only-
how could you not?
The only time I've ever picked myself in that game is
Yeah.
because my girlfriend was like, "I want to see what you look like." on
Does
that game."
it look like you?
No.
Does it?
No.
Please tell me it's a white guy.
It's
Please tell
Pretty
me it's a white
close.
guy.
It's
Pretty
like
close.
it's a Mexican guy and he's
Pretty
got
close.
like a
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I've never been. I had facial hair. And I have a full like stash.
He's got
and,
full,
Yeah.
got full chops.
Yeah.
You know, mutton
Yeah.
chops.
like,
That's
yeah,
so white.
she was.
No,
she
it
was
happened to a
like
buddy of mine who played
No
for
way.
the Army. He's a black dude. And he was like so excited because he made the Army
He's
team.
on the
Vince,
game.
yeah.
And so he bought NCAA. This was like 2001.
Right.
And it was a white guy.
They're
Like,
just
he
like,
that's how you
so
know,
like,
like-
50-50.
Yeah.
Like maybe football's not my thing. Like,
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, it sucked. Poor guy.
So you don't play as yourself?
What's that? No.
See, that's almost like what you do is like you got a girl coming over, you're like, oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, yeah, let me just shut this game down real quick.
Yeah, that's when you put the freeze frame. Oh, it's frozen. I don't know what's going on. But the controllers.
I'll get a
just
guy
off.
to fix it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, but these are for you guys.
Oh,
For tomorrow,
awesome.
yeah.
Look at
Oh,
that.
we
Cool.
got some
Thanks.
So
tickets.
there's-
Well, we bought you food.
Yeah, well, lunch is on us.
Yeah.
It's a fair trade.
Wow,
Awesome.
thanks. This
No,
is
yeah,
awesome.
Very
there's,
cool.
there's three in there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool.
Cool, so we can sell those and then
Yeah,
get
and-
out of town.
Yeah, you can pay for
They
this
call
podcast.
me, Sean. We're stuck outside the stadium. We forgot our tickets. There's like people sitting in your seats, like, wait, thank you for the tickets.
Yeah, the guy's like, hey, that's the guy that sold us the tickets. Like, what are you doing, bro?
All right, well, Sean, thanks for the tickets.
All good, man.
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to tomorrow.
for sure.
That's cool. It's the most fun we'll have this whole month.
Yeah, the rest of it's going to
Yeah.
suck.
So, cool. All right. Can we follow you on Twitter?
Yeah.
At Sean Johnson?
SJohn25.
SJohn25.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else? Instagram?
Instagram, same thing.
Grinder?
No,
No? Tinder?
no Tinder. Nope.
Not anymore.
Not on Farmers Only. None of that. It actually
It.
scares me every time I hear that commercial. Like
The Farmers Only?
Yeah, you're not on Farmers.
I live in LA.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever seen the commercial for blackpeoplemeet.com?
Yes.
The first time I heard that commercial, I was looking down, typing on my computer, and I just had background noise
Yeah.
on. And for some reason, all I thought was meat, like chicken or
Oh,
fish
Black People-
or
yeah,
steak.
yeah.
I just heard meat, and I was like, blackpeoplemeet.com. And I was like,
There's literally a
what
website
the-
for any and every type of person. It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Like,
I know a
I've
girl
seen-
that got married off a J-date. And I was
Yeah,
like, what's
J-date.
J-date? She's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's Jewish date. I was
Jew-
like, what?
yep.
Like, oh, okay.
There's all sorts of, like, if you like up late at night and you're watching like random TV shows, you're fine, no worries. These commercials will pop on and it's like there's like one for Asians and you're like, wait,
No,
I've
there's
nev-
a market for that, my friend.
I've never.
Sean's a big fan.
I love them.
Yeah, it's funny though. When I heard J-date, I was like, what does that stand for? And then she's like, oh, it's Jewish dating or whatever. I was like, what? Like, you're not even hiding it.
I don't want to tell the story I was about to tell. Never mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, late night TV, man. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta go to bed.
That's when it all happens.
I'm like filling out every one of them, like jdate.com. Sure, why not? Continental's got the check.
All right. Well, cool. All right. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, and Continental's got the check.
I'm finished.
All right. Sean Johnson, a really, really fun guy to hang out with. Hub 51. I think I said it during the recording, but that place was awesome. If there was one place I would absolutely seek out of all the places we went to, it would be that place. So anyway, and thanks to Sean for the tickets. We did, in fact, go to the game the next day, and in theory, we'll have a video about it when I get to it. But anyway, so we'll close out with another song by L. Carpenter, who should be available on iTunes. This is a song called Life Just Happens to You. Enjoy.
She had a hard way to go and she knew it wouldn't be easy. Riding down the road to a new life to keep her busy. When her better half left thinking he'd be better off, it was her and the kids who paid the cost for his foolish choices. A wandering eye always stays alone. He worked a 40-hour week, 50 weeks out of every year. And he only called in sick 2 times in 30 years. And today he got a pink slip with his golden watch to let him know loyalty didn't mean much. But they thanked him for his service. It was a hell of a bittersweet send-off. 'Cause when life throws a curve, sometimes it's a bit she planned it. How could he turn his back on her first love? Oh, when life throws a curve, sometimes it's a biggin'. You give it all you got and still you go down swinging. And you just can't believe this is happening to you, 'cause you did everything you were told to do. Now you're the one who's followed all the rules. Well, sometimes life just happens to you. The bitter, better half came back to his senses. Grass ain't greener over other fences. He's got a lot of making up to do. The man they retired is now a consultant, and for the competition he's getting results. And the lesson here is be careful who you screw. And the little fifth grader has graduated to middle school. A new boy carries her up head 'cause he thinks she's cool. And you see, sometimes when life gets rough, that's when you just gotta hang tough. 'Cause life is never as good or as bad as it seems to be. Oh, when life throws a curve, sometimes it's a biggie.